The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we're the ones that have encouraged you all along to like and share them on your favorite social media and with your friends and neighbors, because it's the science of caring we're talking about, which is Careology, and hosted this week by the one and only Miles McGrath.
Well, Cliff, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here on Careology, and we've got a special guest today. His name is Richie Colletti. He's with a company that does amazing work when it comes to roofing, and we're going to have a great interview with Richie and talk about some of the important things to be aware of with your roof. But before we get into that, I want to share some updates on what CareBag is doing and some successes we had. We hosted a back-to-school event over at the Mid-Florida Event Center, and there were 149 youngsters that got haircuts, that got bags full of items to get them ready for a fresh start for school. So that was a well-attended event, and it gave us some good awareness, and the moms were so happy. They were standing in line to make sure their kids got the haircuts. So we had barbers from all over Florida participate and volunteer for that event, and we're going to bring it back next year at the start of school. The other thing we want to let the community know that we have a diaper drive going on now until September 30th. So if you have a way and a source for diapers, we need wipes. We need diapers of all sizes, but especially size 5, 6, and 7 for folks. And what happens to those diapers is mothers come in that maybe can't afford diapers on their own, and they come and we distribute those diapers to those in need. The other thing we want to let you know about, on Saturday, October 14th, CareBag will be hosting a community baby shower. Now, this is something the founder of CareBag has been wanting to do for a few years, and we are looking to host 60 to 75 individuals for this baby shower. The purpose of the community shower is to provide women and children with necessary tools for proper care. This will involve sharing gifts, parenting advice, and guidance from local agencies, as well as offering support to ensure they receive the help they need. Recipients will register with select agencies in the community. They're allowed to bring one guest to attend the baby shower and enjoy this experience they may not have had otherwise. This event will be filled with giving, love, laughter, and light. So visit the CareBag website for more details, and that's carebagfl.org. Again, that's October 14th. It's going to be a great event, and it's going to be an opportunity for folks to volunteer that want to be part of that, and of course for the moms that are expecting new arrivals, that we can help start them off on a good footing with the proper necessities that they need. So I'm going to introduce our guest today. His name is Richie Colletti. He is the owner of a very famous roofing company along the Treasure Coast, Leak Busters Roofing. Richie, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Miles. Glad to be here.
The reason I asked Richie to come to the show is, as we are in the middle of hurricane season, a lot of people are concerned with their home. They're concerned with what would happen if a hurricane were to strike. And one of the biggest areas of concern is with our roof. So I thought I'd bring in an expert today to talk about what to look for on their roof, what to look for that would tell them there's a leak, you know, what questions to ask if they have a roofing company out to their home. So, Richie, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your knowledge with our group. But before we get into those questions, I have to ask, you know, the roofing business, we see people sweating on roofs. We see people putting tar on roofs. It is a tough business out there. What got you interested in the roofing business?
Well, first off, I started off in the roofing business as a young age. My father, my uncle, my brother, my whole family were in the roofing industry. So that's kind of what I did on the weekends and summer vacations. And I just took a liking to it. I liked that we were outside. We were on top of the roof, you know. in the sun every day. It was usually a different job, so it was constant new scenery. And as I grew older, I realized that the roof was the most important part of the house and protects the most investment. It's not the sexiest thing to do to your house. I mean, most people like to do kitchens and they won't mind spending, $100,000 if need be, but it is the most important part, and I felt like that was something that I wanted to do to help people protect their investments and give them peace of mind and security.
So when you finish a roof for a client, that gives you that feeling that you've helped them with their home.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether they think they got helped or whether they just feel like they had to spend, an unnecessary $20,000, I feel good knowing that they're protected.
When we talk about protection, the natural thing we think about is rain, but what are some of the other things the roof is doing for our home?
Well, it's keeping the elements out, obviously the rain, and hail, depending on what type of roof system you have. I mean, it could help you with energy efficiency, keeping your house cooler, different stuff like that. I mean, there's different aspects to the roof that are going to help keep you protected from the elements outside.
Now, you said you started out in the roofing company with your family. How many years ago was that you started in the roofing business?
Not very good at math, but I'm 47 and I started out, I mean, I was on the roof as a young age, but when I fully kind of knew what I was doing and I was putting shingles on, I was probably around 12, but I was on a lot younger. We didn't have OSHA problems back then like we do now. I was carrying shingles up at 9 years old, and it was not a big deal to anybody.
You were born with an East Wing hammer in your hand.
Yeah, that's right. It was the East Wing too. A hatchet.
It's amazing to me. We do take it for granted, and I've gotten an opportunity to work with some of your folks there, and now when I drive around the area, I can't help but notice all these different types of roofs. Different roofs are in different shapes. Some are brand new, some are not. What are some of the types of roofs that are common in Florida that the consumer is going to kind of have experience with?
Well, you have a lot of tile, mostly shingles right now, and we are switching a lot of our customers over to metal. Metal is probably one of the best systems out there as far as durability, energy efficiency, and it has a better protection rate, meaning a better wind uplift capacity. You commonly see after storms, shingles are blowing off, tiles are blowing off. Typically, you don't see metal blowing off as much. If it's properly installed, it protects the home a lot better. So we're actually trying to push more metal than anything. Unfortunately, some of the HOAs, don't really allow it. They want that tile Florida look, so we're working on them too. But
I'm sure you get this a lot from people. They'll say, well, which roof is going to last the longest? How do you answer that question?
Well, I 100% a metal roof is going to last the longest. That's going to be that roof. A metal roof will last the longest. You can get 30 to 50 years on a metal roof if properly maintained. Unfortunately, in the state of Florida, the insurance companies now dictate how long your roof lasts. So,
we were talking about that before the show, and we're going to dive deep into the insurance piece of it. But let's backtrack on the metal. When I think of metal, are there different types of metal? There's like aluminum, and what are some of the types of metal that the consumer could get for their roof?
So yeah, you have different types. You have aluminum, different gauges, 027, 032, 040, which is 040 is kind of the thicker of them, and then we got steel, 26 gauge, 24 gauge metal. But we have several different varieties of metal that we can install. Exposed fastener systems. We have industrial type panels. We have standing seam, which is the more prettier roof that people see. They don't have any of the screws or anything, and they have a nice, clean, sleek look. That's what a lot of people are looking for nowadays. They do have shingles that are metal. They have tile that looks like metal. They have cedar shakes that look like metal. Those are called the stone-coated steel. They're starting to take off a little bit. But for strength and durability, the strongest roof system is going to be your exposed fastener system, which was, one of my favorite is the V-crimp. That roof is, basically comparable to the cost of a shingle roof. and it's very strong. It has a negative uplift pressure of about 228 pounds. So, I mean, it's a real strong.
So you'd have to have a pretty strong storm to come through there.
Yeah, in fact, if you remember Hurricane Irma that hit in the Keys, one of the only roof systems that lasted that storm was the 5V metal. You know, in Hawks Cay, if you looked, that whole community was done after Hurricane George. There was very little damage in that whole entire community. Panels weren't rusted, they were on the ocean. The only thing we had to do after 22 years was swap out all the screws and change out the boots and, you know, reseal all the penetrations. And it was, I mean, the roof held up very well to Hurricane Irma. I don't remember what the storm wind was, but those roofs did make it through. So,
did you see a similar? I know you do business on the west coast of Florida as well as in the Fort Pierce and Treasure Coast area. Did you see? What did you see on the west coast in terms of the roofs that lasted versus ones that didn't last with the storms we had on the west coast?
Shingles were almost completely gone. Unless they had solar on the roof, then the shingles were protected by the solar panels. The tiles were, you know, there was a lot of tile missing. Metal roofs again outlasted. Even the standing seam, like there's a lower grade standing seam called a Quick Max or a nail strip. And that particular panel didn't blow off either. So, I mean, the metal, in my opinion, held up. It will get damaged. You can have stuff hit it, but what I like is even though the panel's damaged, you don't have any interior damage like you would with shingles or tile. Like the shingles and tile will blow off, and then you're going to allow water to come into the house, and your ceilings will drop. It'll basically ruin your whole entire house. But the panels can get dinged up, damaged, and there's no problems. You know, you just change out the panels or you change out the roof, however you got to do it, but you eliminate that interior damage portion. That's what I like about it.
Now, you mentioned something that a lot of people have been getting notices about. We see things on social media. Many of our listeners in the audience have probably gotten a door knock from a solar company to want to put solar panels on their roof. As a roofing expert, what are some do's and don'ts when it comes to solar?
Well, the reason I recently got into the solar industry probably in about the last year and a half, 2 years. I was very much against solar for a very long period of time due to bad practices on companies taking advantage and preying on older people who would never get a return on investment. Also, they didn't have any regulations on how the solar panels were installed, so they were literally just going and screwing through the existing roof, put a little caulk on it, and call it good. So a big part of my repair business was driven by fixing leaks from solar panels. So I was really scorned on solar for a long time because of that. Now, recently, there's been some changes and upgrades to the attachment, and you got to make sure that your installers are properly doing it. They're going to use the proper flashing kits or brackets or whatever type of metal system they're hooking into beams. There's a couple things you want to watch out for. I mean, they are getting more regulations now on codes of how to install this in solar, so it's a little bit harder for these guys to get away with bad installations. Make sure your installer is a company that's been around for a while, because there's a lot of guys that are popping up and they're going away real fast. So as soon as they start getting a bunch of lawsuits, they bankrupt the company and then they're gone. And then make sure that you really look at your return on investment as far as the way the numbers work, because if the numbers don't work, it's not going to be a value of you. I mean, it's easy for the salesman to come in with these sales tactics and try to show you how the value is going to be there, but is it really going to be there? Are you going to get your tax incentives? You know, there's a lot of different variables. We turned down quite a few solar deals ourselves that come in from our sales reps because it just doesn't look like it's going to pan out for the homeowner. So you have to kind of find somebody that has a little bit of integrity, that's going to have the customer's best interest in mind.
When you think about putting a solar panel on a roof, one of the things how important is the age of the existing roof before I put a solar panel on?
Oh, it's very important, because you don't want to put a solar system on an old roof and then 2 years later you have to detach and reset it. Now you just cost yourself another $8,000-$9,000 for detach and reset. So, and these solar sales reps that have come out here, they don't care about that. All they want is the sale. They want their commission. So it's you got to make sure that the roof is like 5 years or under if you already have an existing roof. If it's anywhere near the 10-year mark where you know you're probably going to get that letter from your insurance company canceling you if your roof is older, go ahead and try to get the roof bundled up into the solar deal and do them both in one shot. And I mean, really, now with the Inflation Reduction Act, I mean, you get a solar system, reduce your power bill, and you're pretty much getting your roof kind of for free. You know, I mean, you might have come out a couple $1,000s out of pocket for the roof, but by the time you get those tax incentives, if you qualify, your roof is almost free.
That's amazing. I did not realize that. So, just reiterating to make sure I understand, do not consider putting solar unless your roof is at least new up to 5 years old. Don't put it on any older than that, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't personally put it on older than 5 years. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense because you're going to have to change it anyway in a couple of years. The insurance companies are cracking down harder and harder now with their stipulations on how long your roofs go. We're seeing some roofing companies canceling policies for roofs being around 10 years old. It was 15 for a long time, and now we're starting to see them come in at the 10-year mark. They're just trying to eliminate their liability. So,
what does the homeowner do? They've been with the insurance company for 20 years or something like that, and all of a sudden they get this letter saying, "Hey, you guys, you need to get a new roof." What can they do at that point?
Freak out.
Yes, freak out. But after they've come down from freaking out, what can they do? What if they don't do it? I mean, what can happen?
Well, what could happen is if the insurance company sends you a letter saying that they're going to cancel your policy if you don't get a new roof, you do have some other options. I would probably first, before I go out and buy a brand new roof, I would probably call a couple different insurance agents and see if there's anybody else that might cover you. Now, if you're already with like Citizens usually will take somebody with a little bit of an older roof at a higher premium. So then you got to like kind of basically balance out how much is your premium going to be, how much is the roof going to be, what's going to be, you know what I mean? You get where I'm going with this, where if you're going to be paying $3,000 or $4,000 extra a year for your insurance policy and your roof is going to be $15,000, $20,000, it may be worth it for you just to get the roof and get the lower premium. So
Gotcha.
you can check around that first before you go crazy. But other than that, I mean, they are giving people letters saying they're going to cancel you if you don't get your roof done in 30 days. I do want to say this publicly, like, I've been dealing with this a lot in the last 2 or 3 years. They won't cancel you at that 30-day mark. As long as you're in contract with a roofer, you have a permit, you have a plan, you have a roofer that can write you a letter. We write letters. We talk to insurance companies, basically give them a schedule. They'll extend the period. They're going to give you a little bit of a grace period, so it's not like your policy is going to be turned off in 30 days. As long as you have the wheels in motion and everything is going, you're going to be okay. So I just want to give you that common feeling that it's going to be okay as long as you're with a decent roofer.
So if they get the letter, they can choose to replace the roof. What you're recommending is, before they do that, shop around their insurance with other carriers first. Step one. How about getting an inspection? Can they get a roof inspection and say, hey, our roof was inspected, it's not as bad as you think it is? Could they buy time with that, or no?
Not anymore. You used to be able to do that. It was called a roof certification, and I did lots of roof certifications, and basically me as a professional go out there, inspect the whole entire roof. I would make suggestions of any kind of maintenance that might need to be done. Do that, and I'll certify the roof for 3 to 5 years. They were doing that for a while, then all of a sudden they just stopped. They don't care what roofers say because, again, probably more of a thing where people abuse the privilege. Roofers were writing letters for $200, $300, and they were sending stuff out that, the roof wasn't as good, and they started catching on. So somebody obviously ruined that process along the way, but they don't do that anymore. They don't do roof certifications anymore. They don't accept them. They don't care. All they do, a lot of times they don't even look at your roof. They go to the property appraiser, look at the last time you had a roof permit, and it's all dates. Okay, your roof hasn't been done since 2005. Boom, you need a new roof or we're canceling your 30 days. So they even save them time of having their inspector come out and look at your roof. They're just going by dates now. So it doesn't matter how good your roof is. If it's at this date, then they don't want you.
Wow. It's amazing. I'm trying to imagine any other business that would be like that. I'm trying to imagine getting a letter from my car insurance company saying, "Hey, you got to buy a new car because your car is getting too old." Like it just.
The car dealers would love that.
It's like, it doesn't make sense. Even if the roof is old and it's still in good shape, forcing people to get, I don't know. It's just something doesn't seem right there. But I'm not an expert on it. That's why you're here. We talked about water damage. We talked about wind. You said that metal is going to stand up to the wind better. What are some of the other ways that your roof can get damaged?
Oh, Florida, so we have a lot of UV rays. We got salt air. We got hail. We got heavy winds. I mean, pretty much this time of year, almost every afternoon around 3 or 4 o'clock, we get, tropical storms coming in, and you got winds of 60, 70 miles an hour. People don't think about those average everyday storms, or like even hail. We've been getting a lot more hail lately than we normally do. So you might be at work and you're working in Stewart, your house is in Port St. Lucie, and we get this band of 2-inch hail or 1 3/4-inch hail coming down while you're at work. You don't even know it. It's beating your roof. You got some wind associated with that, 70, 80 mile an hour wind. What it starts to do is it starts to create what we call this hidden damage. And it lifts shingles, so they just kind of lift up and then flat back down. So you don't even know it. They're not gone. They're just loose. So now we loosened up all your shingles, and then hail will hit it. It actually hits the roof, and it blows the granulars out, and it exposes what they call the tar matting that's underneath the shingle. So over time, the UV rays will start to beat on that tar matting, and it'll start to make these microscopic holes, and then it'll start eventually having leaks. Now, you may be 2 years down the road from when you had that hailstorm that you didn't even know existed, and then all of a sudden you start getting leaks and you don't know what's going on, and you get a roofer to come out there, check it out. And then, you have costly repairs, sometimes in the $1,000, $2,000 range for these little leaks that you don't even know where they came from. Can't figure out what happened. You think it's wear and tear, but it's really storm. Then you get a good storm, like a hurricane, and then all of a sudden those loose shingles will just start blowing off. And that's why you see a lot of the shingles just after storms blowing off, because already the shingles are damaged. People didn't even know it. Because a lot of people don't think to just get their roof inspected on a regular basis. That's important.
When you say get your roof inspected on a regular basis, let's kind of define that a little bit. First off, what does a roof inspection entail, and how often should you be inspecting your roof?
I mean, because I own a roofing company, I feel like you should inspect your roof on a yearly basis. At best, every other year, but I always would like to say before your summertime or whatever, have somebody come out, check around, all your penetrations, your pipes, your vents, all types of stuff like that. There's all these different things that can get loosened up. A professional roofer that's been in the business for a long time we can get on the roof and we can kind of look and see where shingles are lifted up. We can see that the seal is broken on them, which voids the manufacturer warranties and stuff like that. Those are yearly before any hurricane, especially because we get so many storms in the afternoon that you don't realize that you have this damage. So I would have somebody come out, take a look, make sure that there's no hail marks, wind damage. There's stuff as simple as just like squirrels like to eat the lead stacks that are around pipes. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Okay, so I don't know why the squirrels think that this is a great idea, but there's lead that goes around these pipes, and they eat off the top of that. So people don't even realize that.
How about the lizards, too? I wonder if those
lizards will get up in your soffits, and, I don't know that they don't eat the material, but the squirrels will eat the lead. And we go there sometimes, and the whole top of the lead is eaten off, and water's just rolling down that pipe, but it's behind your wall, and you don't even realize it. And then eventually, it'll start to deteriorate a little bit, and then it causes a leak. And you're like, "What the heck happened?"
Darn squirrels!
Darn squirrels!
Well, we're gonna come back. We're gonna take a little break here, and I had no idea squirrels eating the top of your roof. But if you don't have it inspected, how would you know?
That's right.
If you could reimagine the way you buy a car, what would you do? Make it simple, make negotiations disappear, demand transparency, then experience amazing at your Treasure Coast Lexus dealer. Car Buying Simplified. Treasure Coast Lexus is a proud sponsor of Careology, caring and supporting for our community. Car Buying Simplified. Check out your Treasure Coast Lexus dealer. Hi, this is Roxy from Careology, and I just want to talk about volunteering. Volunteers don't necessarily have the time, but they have the heart. It takes courage and dedication to offer your time and skills to help out a cause that is a noble act that deserves recognition. Volunteering is a great way to make a difference in our community, and CareBag needs your help. We are looking for dedicated volunteers. So please get a pen, get a paper, and take down this number. It's 772-222-7399. Call us and let us know you're interested. We are looking for volunteers for the evening hours between 5 and 8 p.m. to go to our soup kitchens with our new mobile hygiene pantry. I look forward to hearing from every one of you. And remember, volunteers don't necessarily have the time, but they have the heart. Thank you.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
We now return to Careology, the science of caring. This week's guest host, once again, the one and only Miles McGrath.
Cliff, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm going to reintroduce my guest today, Rich Colletti with Leak Busters Roof Repair. We left talking about squirrels eating the lead stacks, but before we continue the conversation, what if somebody wants to get leak busters on the roof to do an inspection? What number, how do they get in contact with your company, Richie?
That's easy. 772-332-8450 is our main office number, or you can go to myleakbusters.com, myleakbusters.com with an S.
Excellent. myleakbusters.com. I love it. Leak Busters isn't the only roofing company here on the Treasure Coast. What should somebody is going to have a roofing company out to their home, maybe to put a new roof, maybe to look at a leak? What are some questions that the homeowner should ask to make sure they're with a very reputable roofing company?
Well, first off, I mean, I would always, obviously check Google reviews first and foremost. I mean, that's one of the big things that you can kind of tell. Make sure they've been in business for at least a few years. I don't want to say, like some people say, make sure they've been in business for 15 years. We've only been in business for 8. But at least a couple of years to make sure that they're a sound company. Some of the things that a lot of people don't ask is for their insurance. The biggest thing, like that's the biggest deciding factor, different thing in pricing. Sometimes we compete against other companies and we might be a little bit higher in price than them. But if you really break it down, you start to look, we would tell the customers is to go back and ask them for their liability, workers' comp, their vehicle policies, and also like a roster of their guys that are on there. Because a lot of companies are running with the workers' comp exemption, meaning me as the owner, I can be exempt. So it doesn't matter. I could work, I have a workers' comp, I could pull a permit, but my guys are not on workers' comp. So they may just hire some guys, and that saves a significant amount of money if you do business that way. But it can endanger the homeowner if something ever were to happen on the property, then the homeowner could, be liable for any of the damages.
So when they're looking at a contractor to do the roof, they should ask to see that they're properly insured.
Oh, yeah.
From
absolutely.
their vehicles, from their workman's comp. They should look at their Google reviews. What are some other things they should be on the lookout for?
I would probably say, look at, I hate to judge people's book by their cover. There are some guys out there that do really nice work with, bad vehicles, but look at the cleanliness of their, I always look at the cleanliness of people's truck. If somebody pulls up to my truck looking like Sanford & Son, I feel like that they're going to probably do work like that at my house, and I wouldn't want to hire somebody that comes in looking like Sanford & Son. So like kind of see how they're organized they are. Those are little sure signs of it's a good company or not. Do they have a brick and mortar business, or are they working out of their garage is another, don't get me wrong. I worked out of my garage too. I did repairs and stuff like that. But if you're doing a full replacement on a house, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to go to a business somewhere to find somebody if there's something going wrong, that they're going to be liable and financially sound to be able to take care of the damages. Because Florida, you have accidents happen. Things will happen.
They certainly do. One of the things that I think is important is having a checklist when you're about to do a roof. Do you think working with a contractor that would share a checklist of some of the things that may or may not happen on the roof would be important?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's one of our things. Our sales project managers and sales reps, they do before we start a project. They have what we call as a pre-start checklist. We kind of have a list of things that could potentially go wrong, and kind of let you know.
What are some of the things on that checklist?
Some of the things that go wrong, sometimes maybe a screen will get ripped, or we might break a flower, or a sprinkler head, or different stuff like that. Sometimes banging on a roof and tearing the roof off, or shaking the whole entire house. So if you got the Mona Lisa on your wall or something, or grandma's ashes on the fireplace mantle, you might want to put those things, secure them somewhere where they're not going to fall off, So those are things that we kind of go over with the homeowner, so there's not like some bad stuff happen, and we've made that checklist through experience over the last few years, unfortunately, but that's how we came up with it. Banging on a roof and a very expensive painting falls down, and next thing you know, we have to try to track down the artist to make a new painting.
Right. Gotcha. You don't want to do that. You guys are roofing experts, so that's an important thing. We talked about metal roof. Why would somebody, beyond aesthetics, we look at tile, but what are some advantages, disadvantages of a tile roof?
The advantages to a tile roof is it is considered more of a cooler roof, because the clay or the cement will absorb that heat, and then there's an airspace below the tile that actually will not transfer into your attic as much. So other than that and it looking pretty, there's really not a lot of advantages to a tile roof.
One of the issues we all faced with the pandemic was getting supplies and computer chips, but I had heard that getting tile is can be an issue as well. What are the lead times on tile?
27 to 58 weeks in most cases, unless you find a tile that's sitting in a yard somewhere and get lucky. That's the biggest thorn in my side is tile.
Wow, that's something to consider if you're looking at tile versus metal.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Now we talk about shingles, typical shingle roof. Laying out a strip with the sand on it. What are advantages, disadvantages on that product?
The advantages to shingles is they're low cost. They're readily available. So a shingle roof, if you're in a serious time crunch, or you're trying to flip a house and you need to get a roof on it at a cost-effective price, shingles would be the way to go. You can get them really quick, and we can install them really quick. Now,
one of the areas of the roof most people don't see is what's underneath, either the shingles, the tile, or the metal. What are some of the components that go underneath those that the homeowners should be aware of? There's probably some quality levels of different products that go underneath those. Can you educate the homeowner on those types of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, when you're doing a new roof, you're going to tear everything off down to the plywood, which they call that the decking. You want to inspect all the decking, because there's different areas. Sometimes you'll have leaks and you won't know about it, and it starts to rot the plywood out in areas before it will actually show. So make sure that the roofer is checking all of the decking to make sure there's no rotten areas. Then you're going to want to re-nail it with a 2.5-inch ring shank nail. That is code. A lot of guys don't do it. They have some areas that you can do an affidavit, which is basically a paper that you could submit to the building department saying, I did it. But a lot of guys don't do it, and they turn it into paper. Sometimes they turn it into paper when they're picking up the permit before they even start the job. So you want to make sure that they're going to nail the roof off, because that's a big thing. If the wind gets underneath there, we used to use what they call the 60 common nail, and it's smooth. So the plywood will pull right off, and they'll just, heavy enough wind, it'll blow the whole entire sheet of plywood off. So make sure they nail it. Then you're going to want to make sure you get a good underlayment. The underlayment is the base layer that goes down before your roofing material goes down. I prefer using a peel and stick, fully adhered membrane to go down over the whole entire roof to cover everything up. It's actually considered as a secondary water barrier with the insurance company, and you actually get a credit with your wind mitigation inspection. What that does is, let's just say you got a shingle roof, we put a peel and stick underlayment. The wind comes, it blows a bunch of shingles away. Traditionally, they would use 30-pound felt tar paper. That tar paper would blow off, and now you're going to allow a bunch of water to come into your house faster. With this system, the shingles blow, the underlayment is stuck to the deck, so it actually protects it. It's not going to fully 100% protect you because you're going to have the nails are going to pull out, so you're going to have nails dripping and stuff like that, but it is going to slow down the amount of water that goes into the house significantly compared to the 30-pound felt, which will just blow off and completely flood your house out like a waterfall. So
all 3 styles of roof, the shingle, the metal, and the tile, get the peel and stick underlayment?
Yeah. Yep, we put peel and I put peel and stick. I automatically start with peel and stick underlayment. I rarely ever will use a 30-pound felt. There's another one called a synthetic, which is basically like a canvas, like almost like a tarp. It's hard to pull it apart. I'm not a big fan of that either because it does allow water to get in pretty easy too. So peel and stick mostly. You got to use a different one for metal. It's called a high temp peel and stick underlayment because it's the high heat of the metal.
Right.
The metal will get about 150, 160 degrees. So you got to have something that just won't burn up.
Now, when we get into commercial roofing, that's a whole nother topic. I mean, there's different materials that are used for that, depending on the type of commercial roof it is, or similar materials?
No, it's definitely different. It's a lot of rolled roofing. We're starting to do a lot of TPO, which is like full sheets, white. It's a big white sheet that roll over. You heat weld all the seams. We got modified, like a torch down, people know of. So there's a couple different systems, and sometimes they're all flat, so we have to put like insulation board tapered systems to direct the water off the roof. So it's a little bit more complicated of a system. So we probably do a whole nother hour on just commercial.
You probably could. So I'm trying to put myself in somebody's shoes here. They moved from the Northeast to Port St. Lucie. They bought a new house. It got inspected. It passed inspection. But what they didn't realize, there might have been some hail damage. Would the normal home inspector catch the hail damage on a roof?
No, most home inspectors won't know unless they've been in the roofing industry before. It's pretty hard to identify hail damage if you're not used to looking at it or don't know what to look at.
Got it. So what would happen if somebody called your roofing company or another roofing company? They were concerned. There was a hailstorm. I think we had last year, wasn't it? We
had one this year in March and April.
Okay, so we did have one this year.
Oh yeah, we have one.
So there was a hailstorm. They heard hail. They saw maybe they got a couple dents on their car, but they hadn't had their roof looked at. What would happen if they called the roofing company to come take a look at that?
Well, so we would come out there. Again, hail is like that hidden damage. Again, you can't see it from the ground. Most of the time, there's no shingles blowing off. So we would have to get on the roof and physically look at the roof, and then what would happen is you're going to see a bunch of the tar matting exposed all over, and usually there has to be, like, out of a 10 by 10 square, you have to have about 5 to 8 hits in that one little 10 by 10 area on all sides of the roof in order for the insurance company to replace it. So what we do is we kind of inspect the roof, let you know if there's enough valid damage. It's important to make sure you have valid damage. A lot of people call claims in without realizing if there's any damage or very little damage, and that's not a good thing. That's why we're in the jam we're in with the insurance companies as it is. But if you have valid damage, that's what insurance is for. So we would verify that you had the proper amount of damage in there. Then, if you decided you wanted to call a claim in, then what we would do is give you a little bit of support. We would write a scope of work, for the insurance company, showing them what kind of materials would need to be put on the roof to be able to put it back to whole again. And then we would, obviously meet the adjuster out there, kind of verify with him, show him some of the damages. Sometimes the insurance companies, they will overlook certain things to, probably save themselves a little bit of money, I guess. So it's very important that you have a roofer out there to represent you. It's kind of, we're experts in the field. That's why we're out there. We know the damages that are out there. We can show that the damages are, voiding manufacturer warranties. So it's very important that you have somebody represent you, because 99% of the times when you just call the insurance company, they're going to tell you don't have damage.
So just I'm thinking of myself here, because I'm like Mr. Do-It-Myself sometimes. I climb up on my roof, I notice some damage, then I call my insurance company, and I don't have the expertise. They might say, well, you don't qualify for that, or you might.
Yeah, they'll probably, I've seen some insurance companies where they send out their guys and they have these little pamphlets that they made up, and they kind of give you different reasons, like it's a mechanical damage or it's manufacturer damage. Some of these different things that they would, that they'll show you this little pamphlet to kind of make you feel comfortable, like they know what they're talking about. A lot of the adjusters that work for the insurance company, because there were so many storms, recently just got onboarded. And literally I've seen ads on Craigslist for come work for an insurance company. And there's, I've met adjusters that were in the deli working at Publix one week, and next down they're out there inspecting roofs for, $1,000, $1,500 a week. So they don't really know everything. So
listen, making a good public sub, man, that's important, man. How dare they steal those people away from Publix? It's not right.
I know.
So you want somebody to represent you that's knowledgeable about the roofing. I hear a lot of, kind of, let's take the other side of the story, is like, well, all the insurance rates are going up because people are making these claims. But at the same token, if there is a claim, if there is damage, I mean, it's why you have insurance. So there is that piece of it. How do you walk that line, Richie, between, what do you tell your clients in terms of, should I put in a claim or should I not put in a claim? What do you, I know it's kind of hard. You're in the roofing business, you're not in the insurance business, but what's your kind of rule of thumb when you're trying to educate your clients on that?
Well, educate my clients, and obviously when we onboard new sales reps and everything too, it's all kind of the same thing. You want to make sure that there's verified damage. Like, I try to put myself in the insurance company shoes, not the adjuster, but the insurance company. When I get up on a roof and I look at the roof and I say, oh wow, there's actually damage here, this is worth calling in. If I have to sit up there and look for damage for 15 minutes before I find anything, probably not a good option to go through your insurance. But if there's missing shingles or lots and lots of hail marks in a different area, like the recent hailstorm that hit in Melbourne, Palm Bay area, it was undeniable. When we went up on that roof, there was black. I mean, the hail hit those roofs so hard that they were like smearing the tar. That's, to me, is a valid claim. That's something that I would feel 100% comfortable calling in at my house.
Right.
And I just try to put yourself in their shoes. If there's something that would get paid for. And we've really haven't had many denials, especially on shingle roofs. We haven't really had many denials, maybe 3 in the last 6 years.
So speaking of shingle roofs and going to that steel, is the steel going to be able to handle the hail better than the shingle?
It will handle the hail, but it still will get damaged. So it's not going to be significant damage like you would on shingles. But what it does is it does hit the steel roof, and it breaks. There's like a coating on top of it, like a Kynar finish on top of the metal panels. It'll break that, and eventually it'll start to make rust marks. Like, it takes the protective coating off of the metal. So it's important to get those inspected too. I mean, very rarely have we called in. I mean, there has to be good damage. Like, I want to see real good damage before we call in a claim, because I don't want to, at the end of the day, I have to make sure that we protect our reputation. We don't want to be known as ambulance chasers to the insurance companies. We have good relationships with all the insurance companies. They know when we call in a claim that normally that it's a legit claim and there's really no argument there.
Gotcha. Speaking of other types of damage, how about lightning? Is there anything the homeowner can do to protect their home against lightning? And what happens when lightning hits a roof?
Well, we actually have a claim over in St. James right now where the lightning actually hit the roof, blew the tile off of it, and actually blew a hole right through the decking of the roof and made a big, probably 6-inch round hole. So lightning damage does happen. It'll hit trees, and the trees will fall over and hit roofs. I don't know if they work or not. I have them by my house, but I have lightning rods. Haven't really hung out there in a lightning storm to see if I've ever got hit with lightning, and I don't know. I guess they say it actually hits those lightning rods and will go down and ground out. before it does any damage to your house. I don't know how they work, but you could try lightning rods.
Okay. So do you, based on your experience, is there any like percentages on the roofs that get hit more or less by lightning, or is it just kind of the luck of the draw? Like would a shingle roof get hit more by lightning, or a metal roof, or a tile roof, or there's no statistics that?
You would think metal would probably get hit more, but I haven't really seen any. I've seen shingle lightning and I've seen tile lightning. So I don't know. I think it's just a matter of where the lightning wants to strike, really. I mean, I don't think there's anything that really, attracts it too much.
Okay.
You know, it is wherever God wants it to go.
Gotcha. Now, and speaking of roof, there's a lot of things that when you're putting a roof on, the roof is attached to the gutters. It's attached to the fascia. It's attached, and the fascia is that kind of wooden strip that goes along the edge of the roof. Do you find some confusion on what's covered in a roof job versus what's not covered there?
When you say covered, are you talking about from the insurance company?
For the insurance company, or the expectations of the customer? Like when you say we're going to put a new roof on, what does that really normally include?
So normally it includes the roof, new drip edge. If the fascia is rotted, we have to fix the fascia while we're doing the roof, because we have to obviously put new drip edge. The metal has to wrap around from the roof edge down to the fascia. So, we would include taking that. Obviously if it's unforeseen damage, there's obviously charges that we let you know up front how much they are.
Right. And how about painting all those things? Is that something the homeowner would hire somebody to paint that, or do you guys sub that out, or depends on the job? Or?
Depends on the job. Depends on, some homeowners are handy and they want to do some of that stuff themselves to save a little bit of money. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put a primer on it. That way the homeowner has, a few months to figure it out. If they want to do it on a weekend with cousin Billy Bob and a case of beer, then that's up to them. But we gotta finish.
Sling blade. All right. That's funny. So knowing that up front is something you want to, when you're getting a roof, is set the proper expectation of what is covered on that roof. We talked about solar panels. So let's say you have solar panels on your roof. Do most roofers take those off, or do they have to go back to the solar panel company, or what happens with that?
Yeah, so most solar panels are warranted for 25 years. So as soon as a roofer starts getting his grubby fingers on it and pulling it off, you're going to void your warranty. So you want to make sure that if you have solar panels, whoever installed them, you want to go to them, let them know you're getting ready to do a roof project, and you're going to need to get a detach and a reset. So they'll come out before we start, they take the panels off, put them off to the side, and then whenever we're done, they'll come back and put them on. Now, there's a tricky situation where they can void the roof warranty, so the roofer would have to be involved in that process of the installation. I want to go out there, I want to verify and kind of give them my blessing whenever they're doing the solar reset.
Got it. So the roofer should work hand in hand with the solar company.
Yes.
Gotcha. How about the inspector, like the county inspectors? You have Martin County inspectors, you have St. Lucie County, you got the Indian River inspectors. What is that relationship like from the homeowner's perspective and from your perspective as a roofing company owner?
Well, I think the relationships that we have with the inspectors around here are pretty good. I mean, as long as you do good work, you have a good relationship with them. They come out, they verify that the work that you're paying to get done is getting done. They're going to verify the materials that are being used. They're going to make sure that everything is done to manufacturer specification. They actually look at the product approvals, and it tells you how you're supposed to attach materials. They look at all that stuff and make sure that everything is getting done correctly.
So that's important to have that inspector. What is the process from the customer signing an agreement to get a roof? What are the stages for that project?
So
from the time he signs up to pulling a permit, all those different things. Just kind of paint the picture.
All right. So once you sign, basically it goes into permitting. At our company, I've told you before that we have like a 24-hour thing. As soon as somebody signs, we're getting it sent off for permitting within 24 hours. As soon as we order the materials, at that point while we're waiting for the permit to be issued, and then as soon as the permit is issued, then we get you on a schedule. Then once we get you on a schedule, we obviously go out there, we tear off the roof, dry it in, do all the re-nailing of the deck, have an inspector come out, check that portion, have that portion get inspected, and then we get to go back and put the actual roof material on, and then we get a final inspection, and then we're closed out.
Richie, I want to thank you for being on this show. One more time, how do we get in touch with Leak Busters?
Leak Busters 772-332-8450, the 772-332-8450, or myleakbusters.com.
You can also put your camera on the QR code for Leak Busters on the page of this archive on YouTube.
That's right.
Thank you, Cliff. This has been a great show. I think we all have a roof that we live underneath, and we want to make sure it's leak-free, and we want to be prepared for the next storm. And then what do we do after? I really appreciate you informing the audience. This is Miles McGrath with Careology. Thank you so much.
Careology, the science of caring.